Hello there, my name is Ismas, and today I want to show you how to animate a spaceship landing with fire and smoke simulations all together. So this is the preview of what we're going to be doing, and I'm just going to do a project overview of what I did and the different settings I use. You can find the time lapse of the entire project from start to finish, how I created the entire project from start to finish, from the tunnel and the spaceship and rigging the spaceship, the animation, the camera movement, plus the fire simulation. On my second channel, Blender Money, I'm uploading the video right now, so you can watch it later. But so let's talk about the animation. So yes, maximize everything. Okay, yeah. So let me first pause all these for a second. So yeah, the first thing we have is this spaceship that I rigged up for animation. You can see how I rigged it in the time lapse. The way I set it up is that I have these control objects that I can use to control the different parts of the different parts of the ship, and I also have these particle emitters, which are basically meshes, circular meshes that are emitting particles, and they are parented to these bonds here that are controlling the engines. So when I animate this, the particle emitter or the emission, the particle emitter also moves with this spaceship. So we have one emitter for the left engine and one for the right engine, and what they're using is a particle. Let me just show you here. I think you can see the particles there being emitted there, and those are the sources of they are the source of the fire. So it's like the fuel of the fire. So let's talk about the particle settings I'm using here. So let's go to the particle settings for this. You can see it's a very basic settings. I'm using mostly the default settings, except what I changed here is the end frame because at when the spaceship settles down, I wanted the engines to shut off so that we don't see any smoke anymore. So at around frame I think 160 something, 160, yeah, 160, I stop the emission of the particles, which in turn stops the emission of the smoke and fire. So then from there I increase the normal velocity, which is basically half the speed of the particles when they are ejected from the engine. So by setting the normal velocity, I guarantee that even when these engines are animated to go up and down. Let me first bring back my rig. When they are animated to move up or left or sideways, the particle emissions will be always in the direction of the Z direction or the normal direction here. So even when this is facing down, let me get this back again, the rig back again. You can see the particles are always emitted in the Z direction of the object. Then let's go back to object mode. And so that's why I have the normal velocity. I left all the other settings default, and I think that's it for this emitter. This second emitter is also sharing the same particle system, and you can tell from this number here, which indicates that this setting is being shared by multiple objects. So then from there, I gave these emitters a fluid system with the type of flow, so that's how we can emit fluid into our scene. So you have a few settings here. You have domain, you have flow. The domain is just the containment of all the boundaries of your simulation. And since I wanted this to just push or emit smoke into our scene or fire into our scene, I set this to flow so that they can be a source of fire in our scene. And then the flow type is just fire and smoke instead of only smoke or fire, because I wanted both. I changed the flow type to smoke. And then the flow behavior is set to inflow. The default is always geometry, which is basically the simulation will only use the volume of your object as the smoke, and it will use that for the duration of your simulation. But if you change the flow behavior from geometry to inflow, it means that you're going to be producing more smoke into the scene per frame. So you're going to be adding more smoke into the frame. But using geometry, you're just using the volume of the smoke as the volume of your smoke object as the entire smoke that you're going to use in the duration of your simulation. Then from there, I don't think I changed any other settings here, but I changed the flow source from mesh, because I wanted to use the particle settings that we use here, or the particle system that we use here. So I switched it from mesh to particle system, so that I can use the particle system I used. I set up, and make sure you also select the settings you have, the settings you want to use, because a single particle system can have multiple particle settings. So make sure you select the particle system, the particle settings you want to use, and also give this an initial velocity. So in addition to the velocity from the particles, this normal velocity, this other source velocity is just a multiplier. So it's just multiplying whatever velocity you have from the particles, and multiplying it by the value you have here. So that means that the smoke is going to be emitted at a faster rate, like you see here. Then yeah, from that I set up the domain. Yes, get it. So this is our domain, which is basically a cube with a fluid setting of domain. I didn't change a lot of settings. I didn't change much here. Most of this is just default settings. I only increased the resolution to 200, and then turned on what else? Actually, that's it for this part here. And the border collision, I only set the bottom collision, so that my smoke is able to collide with the bottom of the domain. As you can see here, as this is settling down, you can see the fire is at this level is starting to bounce over or collide with the bottom of the domain. This makes it easy. It kind of optimizes the simulation a bit, because otherwise you can use the ground mesh as your collision object. So if you give this a fluid type effector, it will make this as a collider object, but I didn't want to do that because this has a lot of geometry, and the difference would not be, there wouldn't be any difference if I just use the domain bottom as the collider, as a collider surface. So then from there I just turned on adaptive domain, and what this does is that when you're simulating smoke, without this setting, the entire domain is calculated throughout the simulation for every frame. But if you turn on adaptive domain, only the smoke areas are going to be calculated, and when the smoke expands, that area of simulation or calculation also expands as well. You can see right now we only have this area being simulated because I wanted to add some dust here, but I think I used very few particles, so the dust is not really coming up. It's not really that visible in the previews here. I should have increased the particle count or the density of the smoke there. It's there, but it's not too visible, and I doubt you would be able to see it with YouTube compression. But so yeah, since it's detecting some smoke here, it's only simulating here before it starts to simulate this area, because the engines haven't started emitting any smoke, and right around here they start emitting smoke, and then the domain expands to cover that area as well. This is all because of the adaptive domain setting. It's just a way to optimize your simulation so that it doesn't take too much time. Then I also turned on the dissolve setting because I didn't want a lot of smoke or a lot of fire in my scene. And by giving this dissolve a time frame of 50 frames, it makes sure that when the small particles live for more than 50 frames, they start dissolving or disappearing, so that we don't have a lot of smoke in our scene. Yeah, so then I think that's it for the domain settings. The only thing I changed here was the tape, the catcher tape to final, so that I can bake it and increase the end frame to 250. The default is usually 50 frames, which is not enough for the length of my scene. That's why I increased it there. Then another thing I did is also set up these walls here to be fluid objects with a type effector, so that the smoke or fire can collide with those surfaces in case it comes in contact with them. But I don't think it ended up being so, since at around here, okay, I don't think it touches that. But if there was any fire going this direction, it would collide with those surfaces. And I think also give this the same setting, so that, because in the original animation I had this area covered as well, and this opens up for this to land into this tunnel, but I kind of decided against that because it was taking a lot of time when I was rendering in cycles, because of the number of samples that were required for that type of scene. I think that's it for the settings, or whatever settings are. Again, if you want to examine the project any further, you can just request it under Patreon, in the Patreon page, and I'll send you the project so that you can examine the different settings I use. And but you can see the time lapse of my second channel, Blender Money. It will be available there so that you can see the entire process from start to finish. Let me just leave you with previews here so that you can see what we did. So this was the original animation. You can see how this is opening up. So it's closed and then starts opening up for this to land in. The landing, I think they're called landing gears. They come out, and then the ship settles down like that. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.